When they couldn't succeed with the violent methods, then the girls stepped in. Okay? And he names like 5 different beautiful ladies who came and tried to tempt Lord Buddha into getting distracted that way. Okay? Then he uses a special meditation that's in the Abhidharma called ugly meditation. And he meditates on them as rotten bodies and maggots like eating out their insides. And then he's like, no thanks. Okay? Then the last demon comes and says, it's not possible to get enlightened. You know? Like doubt. Like doubt comes. Like you never hear about the last one, you know? But the last demon is like doubt. Doubt comes and says, I just don't think anyone could collect that much good karma. You know, to change your body into light, you know? I don't think you could do it, you know? I just don't think it's possible, you know? And Lord Buddha says, how'd you become a deity? You know, how'd you become like a God realm person? And he says, I made a high offering to a high being, you know? So Lord Buddha's like, I've done that hundreds of thousands of times, no problem. Okay? Like, it's interesting, you know? He doesn't talk about emptiness karma. He's saying, I have shown devotion to my lamas, countless times. So, don't worry about it, you know? Kind of cool. Okay. Then he lifts up his left hand, his right hand, and he touches the earth. You see that with some Buddha images, right? It's called the touching the earth gesture, and he just puts his hand down on the earth like that, you know. And he says, this earth belongs to all people, all living beings. This earth belongs to all living beings. Gyuda migyu namshin nyekunme. The earth doesn't discriminate between the beings who walk on it, you know. It's not like it's softer for some creatures and harder for other creatures, right? Dini daki wangte dag me. And I am the Lord of this whole earth, and I speak no lie. Dila kyoki daki wangchashi. You belong to the earth, you belong to me. Right? He's talking to the demons, you know. I am now the Lord of this earth, and you're under my power now. So cool your jets, you know. Like he's like, I'm the one. Then it says, he struck the earth, you know, like that. Like he's been saying that, and then he goes, bam! Then there's this big earthquake among the whole universe, you know. Like he's like, I really like that. Anyway, then a deity, a woman deity, rises up out of the earth, a golden deity, up to her waist, out of the ground, and she says, you are it. And she goes back. She just disappears, you know. It's so cool. I like that. Anyway, and everything you said is true. Okay. Oh, and then the demons sing him a song, which is in the Sojong ceremony. And it's very beautiful. We memorize it. We do it twice a month in the monks' Sojong ceremony. Okay, and I like that song, but we don't have time to do the whole song. But I threw the whole thing in here for you, so that you know. What are we up to? 10th deed? Turning the wheel of the Dharma. So in the 15th, the dates here are a little different, but anyway, I think it's a different month of counting. I want to say, the Buddha stirs from his enlightenment, right? And he says, Sap shi turdel usel dumache. It's deep. It's peace. It's beyond all self-existence. It's the clear light. It's the unchanging thing. And he just sits there for 49 days. You know, he doesn't move for 7 weeks because he thinks nobody will ever get it. You know? And that's the kind of cool. You know? Like he's describing emptiness, right? He's talking about emptiness. He just says, nobody will ever get it. You know? And he's talking about Dharmakaya. He says, nobody will ever get it. So he just sits there. He's like, what's the use of trying to talk to anybody? So for 49 days, he sits there, okay? I like Sarah Judson. Like, okay, you wanted this, right? I want to give you the whole thing. I think it'd be sad not to do the whole thing. He's got what he did on each week. Okay, so here's what he did for each week. during the first of the 7 weeks, right, divine youths and maidens come and praise him and make offerings to him. Okay. This is really cool. During the second week, he goes for a walk among the 100,000 world systems. Okay? I mean, 1,000, right? From the diamond cutter. He goes for a walk. They use the word chakpa, which means he goes for a walk among the 1,000,000 world systems. I like that. Third one, he sits in front of the Bodhi tree and stares at it without blinking. I mean, if you were there, you felt it, right? That was something. Wow. During the fourth week, he goes for a walk from the Eastern Ocean to the Western Ocean of India, I presume. Okay, to the two shores. During the fifth week, he goes to the land of the Nagas, which is supposed to be underground, and they keep scriptures there and stuff like that, right? During the sixth week, he sits under a different tree, which is Nyagroda, and I don't know why it's special, but he's into trees during this period. In the seventh week, he sits under a different tree called the Freedom Tree, and I don't know what that is. Mm-hmm. Then it says here, in order to inspire the rest of us disciples in future generations, these great worldly deities like Brahma and Shakra, they appear before Lord Buddha. He says there are 68 times 100,000, whatever that is. Yeah, 680,000. Yeah, anyway. They appear and they appoint a representative and they offer Lord Buddha a wheel with 1,000 spokes made of pure gold. And they say, please teach. Okay. Which is the turning, represents the turning of the wheel, right? And they say Shakra also threw in 50 gold mandalas that were 75 miles wide. Okay. I don't know. Then on this fourth day of the month, which I already told you about, he goes to Varanasi, or Benares, right? If you've ever been there, I mean, the energy is unbelievable. And he goes to the grove at Sarnath, and he sits down, and he teaches his first 5 students, okay, who were the 5 tiger cubs, 4 cubs and mommy that he gave his body to before, in a previous life. There are thrones set up there for the 3 previous Buddhas of this eon. And he circles them, and he bows down to them, and then he sits on the 4th throne. Okay. And he starts to teach. Okay. So how old is he then? He's 29 when he leaves the palace. He does 6 years of worthless practices. So he's 35 when he gets enlightened. Okay. Then it says he teaches for 46 years after that. Okay? So he enters his teaching career, which is 46 years. And that's, I'd always thought, grew up as a Christian, I always thought that, like, the New Testament, for me, was like a tantric thing. It's so brief, it was almost impossible to follow. And then when I met Buddhism, we have, even now, which is only a tiny percentage of what Lord Buddha spoke, but we have 1,500 of his teachings extant in the Kangyur. So whenever I met Christians in my life, I'm like, you got the New Testament, which is about 30 pages of real teachings. And we got, no, we're just fortunate. I mean, I'm not like saying, oh, we're better than you or something like that. I'm just saying, if Jesus had lived for 46 more years or whatever it is, and taught, we have this corpus. We have this huge body of explanation, which is really, really useful and really great to me. So until he was 80, he taught. Some people, normally they say 81. They count the time in the womb, which was 10 months. So 81 is considered a very dangerous time for lamas. Like Trijang Rinpoche passed away in his 81st year. And we were very worried when Rinpoche got to be 81. But our karma seems to be good enough that, I mean, that we're really lucky we got through that time. Okay. Then they're careful to say he pretended to get in, to go into parinirvana, and they don't describe it much more than that. Okay. So we've finished the 12. And they quote the Golden Light Sutra that we taught in Mongolia, which is the biggest sutra for Mongolians. Sangye Nyangan Yongminda, Buddhas never do parinirvana thing. Chirkyan Nupa Mingyurte, and the Dharma never ends. Senchen Nunki Duechir Nyangan Debra Tumbadze, but they pretend to die to help us realize impermanence, you know. And there was this big thing right after the Buddha died. All his disciples were super respectful of each other for like 5 years or something. You know, like just the event was so shocking to everybody that they studied really hard for 5 years. Then it wore off and they started to have arguments again and stuff like that. Okay. Basically he says nobody's taught Dharma like I'm going to teach it. Okay? All right. And every step he took, the lotuses appeared. Okay. Then he takes 7 steps to the south. And he says, I am worthy of offerings of all humans and gods. You know, you want to give something away, give it to me. Okay. Nupcha Losagoma. Then he took 7 steps to the west. And he says, Dina, Jikten Dina Ngani Chok. This is very famous. I was going to write it for you because it's in the Sojong ceremony. And that's the last thing I promise. Say Ngani, Jikten, Dina, Chok. Very, very famous words. Like we say them every time we do Sojong, we say this verse. And it's like, Nga means what? I. And Ni? I. You know, Ni is like, now, I. Okay? It's like, now, I, Jikten, in this world, Dina, Chok. I'm the biggest thing in this world. You know? It's like Muhammad Ali used to, you know, like, I'm the greatest, you know. And it's something powerful, you know. It doesn't seem like, to me, it doesn't seem like pride or arrogance. It's just like a statement, you know. I am the highest being walking on this planet right now. Period. You know, period. And it's not like he's ashamed or embarrassed, or it's not like he's exaggerating. He's just like, on this whole planet, I happen to be the highest being walking on it right at this moment, you know. And it's just very powerful to me, you know. I just, like, when I hear that, I'm like, boom, you know. Okay, what's he got left to say? I don't know. To the north, he says, are we on the north yet? No.
Yes.
Sorry. Are we?
Yeah.
Right. He says, this is my last birth. I will have no birth, old age, death, sickness or death. I've ripped it out from the root. And he screams it with a lion's roar. You know, like he's not being shy, you know. I am the highest of all living beings. Okay? Like that. He repeats that. Then he takes 7 steps down. Like he's got to do the 10 directions, right? Like, anyway, he takes 7 steps down and he says, I will defeat all demons. You know, I will send down a rain of Dharma that will extinguish all the fires in the hell realms. I'll make everybody happy. Okay? And then the last thing he says is, he takes 7 steps up into the air, right? Everyone will raise their eyes. That's all. Okay? Everyone will look up. It reminds me of Kieran. He used to always do this thing to me. You know? When he was a little baby, he'd always go like that. You know? Everyone will look. Everyone's eyes will rise to the sky. Something like that. Okay? That's all. So we're done. Last thing. This is now, I'm just opening it for discussion. Let's just go around. I'll choose people, okay? We need 12 victims. Yeah. Oh. Sorry?
Jesus said, I am the way. Is that parallel?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, when Jesus first came out, he was in, I think, Galilee. Nazareth. And he came out and said, I'm enlightened, you know. And he lost every disciple he had. It's very interesting. And he's all depressed. And he comes home and he says to Matthew or somebody, he says, why are you hanging around? Everybody's already left me. And he says, where are we going to go? It's Peter. It's Petra, right? He says, where are we going to go? You know? Like everyone thinks you're crazy now. And everyone thinks you're having delusions of grandeur. And everyone left him. He had thousands of disciples. They all left. They said now he's like flipped out, you know. Now he's gone now he's gone overboard. He thinks he's like this special thing, you know. And they just left. And so he comes back. He's got like 5 disciples are left. And he's like, "Why are you still here?" And they said, "Well, where are we going to go?" You know. Yeah, something like that, I think. And then the whole thing started again. You know, there was a whole nother cycle, and that's another story. But I want to ask each person to think carefully about the 12 deeds, and try to relate it to your life. Why is each of the 12 deeds a personal message to your life? You know? And what is the higher significance of the act of getting compassion and moving out of Ganden paradise? So I'll start with Dr. Stump, which only your wife calls you that. But it's okay. I can use it sometimes, right? What is a metaphor for us? What do you think?
I would say it's renunciation, giving back where we were, samsara, to where we want to go, which is paradise.
Yeah, like give up what you had for something higher. Okay. And I'll throw mine in. I think he's set for himself. He's got everything he needs. He's in his perfect place, right? But it's like this Jesus thing in a way. He's going to come down and try to relate to normal schmucks, you know? And I take it as a message that, you know, you could stay here in Diamond Mountain. This class is extremely enjoyable. I love to sit with my tantric students. We sit there and talk about tantra, and you know, it's just enjoyable. I don't need anything else, you know? But maybe you get a wake-up call that says, well, but you got to go out to other places, and you have to appear as other things to other people. You know, like take on a normal human body. And I just see it as like going to the prison. We went yesterday, you know. Like there's no reason why Debbie Bai, she could sit here and do Sanskrit with us, and you know, it's calm, and we have nice food, and we have orange juice, and you know, and there's no trouble, and there's no threat from anybody, and here she's going to a prison where people could get out and kill her, you know, and she doesn't, you know. I think it's like, once you're set personally, you gotta go out and go to the world, even when it's not so nice, places that are not so nice, and people that are not so nice to be around maybe sometimes, and take on their form, and relate to them. And that's that whole thing about, and I call it market share. If it's a business book, write a business book. If it's a yoga book, write a yoga book. If it's about relationships, then do something about relationships. If it's about business, you know what I mean? Be willing and able to appear in different forms to different people when they need it. You know? Once you're set, you know? Core and morph. It's going to become a word, core and morph. Once you have a solid core, then go morph, yeah. And don't be shy about it, you know? I mean, do whatever you have to do to appear to different people. Don't be like hesitant. I mean, Lord Buddha, don't sit there in your own personal paradise and not want to go out and talk to normal people in a normal way. Okay, Debbie Bai, what's the next deed? Going mother's womb. I'll phrase the question on that one a little bit differently. Why would it be particularly useful for Lord Buddha to pretend to go into a womb?
So he can be like us?
I think so. So we can relate to them. You know, in the scripture, I didn't read it to you, but it says, the womb felt like a crystal palace, a huge crystal palace to Lord Buddha. You know, it's like, there wasn't this squishy, dirty, hot thing. It was like, you know, a huge villa, you know. But I think very much to make us relate, you know, relate to him. Jim, what's the next one? Mastering? No? Oh, the actual birth, which I think you can just throw that into the other one, I think. Yeah, going through all that trouble. But what about mastering the worldly arts?
I think it's also like relating to other people. I mean, like, don't be a dharma bum, get a job, be useful, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, live the way people live,
Yeah,
understand their problems.
yeah,
You know, and that is very personal to me because I had like this career track going till
Yeah.
I was about 30.
yeah,
And then about the time, I guess I was about 33 or 34 when I first started teaching from you, and there was just no jobs. And I had all this great time to, you know, study and meditate.
yeah,
So, you know,
yeah,
so that is a message, you know, that do the career thing.
yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's just totally the career thing. And there's a time in your life, I think, like Lord Buddha is saying, on a tantric level, career and family are very tantric. You know, like no problem at all. On a tantric level, career and family and children and all that, all those paths are very powerful ways of getting enlightened. I think for those of us who enter a career for worldly purposes, with a different motivation, not tantric motivation, so parshat. You know, let's set tantric motivation aside. But most of us go through this thing from 25 to 45, where you're just so into your career. You know, like you feel so powerful. Well, I mean, a lot of people. If you've been in corporate life, it's very exciting. It's like, what do they call that? What do they call that drug in your?
Adrenaline.
It's adrenaline. Like 24/7 adrenaline. You know, watch that millions of dollars flow. You know, watch that thousands of diamonds go out the door, thousands of diamonds come in the door. You know, and you're like,
You make all these important decisions.
Yeah.
What you're going to do, what
Yeah.
you're going to do, you know, so don't worry.
yeah, like you're so into it, you know, and you don't come out of it. It's like a dream that you don't come out of until you're 50 or something. Most people are 60, you know, not just a wake up. You get fired as a senior manager and you're like trying to get a job at 60, you know. It's the career thing, I think. I think he's trying to say, watch out for the career thing, you know, like if it's a normal motivation. And it's so hard. Hardest people in the world to teach Dharma to are people that are in the middle of their career, when they're in the middle of that power and that energy and that strength and that excitement and that adrenaline. It's so hard to talk to them, you know. I think that's why the Business Institute is so cool, because we've been able to pluck a few people out of that who are, they're still doing their career, but now they're doing it in a tantric way, you know. What's the next one? Fooling around with the ladies, Alistair. Not that you do it, I'm just...
I think that's the setup for the pronunciation.
Yeah.
In that
I like that. Yeah, yeah. Like, and in a way, I always told people that I was lucky because I didn't get ordained until I was 30. Like, I had been through college before, normal college with girls and stuff, and drugs, and not a lot of drugs, but, and then rock and roll and everything before I became ordained. And I thought that somehow the monks in Tibet were at a disadvantage because they still thought there might be something there. And so in a way, it's good to get it over, like have it, and then give it up. You know, experience it and explore it and see that it can't satisfy you, and then give it up. So, yeah, I think that's a very beautiful. I think it's, you know, and Sarah Jetson was so careful to say that this was a very necessary step in the 12. You know, he was so careful to say that, and I really believe that. The first Dalai Lama says sex and food are the main interests in the desire realm, and then I believe that you have to overcome those two. You have to get over those two. You have to experience them and get renunciation. Then leave them, right? So the next one's obvious, Andriana. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like that. And then on a larger point, that a lot of people I meet who are into their careers, intellectually they understand everything, but they have this fear of leaving the career, you know, or dropping down to a lower position. Like, it wasn't so hard for me. I wasn't struggling between career and yogi. I was struggling between vice president and manager. That was harder. You see, because if I took my 2 months off for retreat, I would get demoted to a manager, and it was so fun being a VP. You know, so in a way, I think that's the willingness to leave behind what you could have been. You know, a world emperor. You know, I could have been a world emperor, and then to give that up to be a normal schmuck and have 14 bosses up above you in the career ladder. And being willing to become a corporate peon, knowing that what you're doing is more important, you know, and having the strength to hold out and say, okay, I'll make 50,000 less than I used to, and I'll have 16 bosses that I don't like, who are stupider than me, and you know, but it's worth it, you know, and it's kind of a renunciation, you know, to be less than you could have been. I think that's the message of leaving the palace, you know, right? If he had stayed, he would have become a world emperor, you know. The willingness to be less than you could have been worldly. It's very hard. It's really hard, you know, when you get high up in the worldly system. What's the next one? Rebecca.
What she said. Yeah.
What's the message there? I mean, Sarah Jetson said it a little bit.
Well, I think it's just being willing to, maybe when you're making progress along the path and you suffer a lot.
Yeah. Expect problems. Expect problems. You know, you are working with the greatest force on this planet. You know, don't expect the demons to leave you alone. You know, you will get major obstacles, and just when you think you're over one, then something worse will come. No, really, and they get heavy. People dying. You know, people's lives being shattered. You know, heavy things to start to happen, and you know, you got to expect it. It will come. I think secondarily there, what was the other thing? There's something else there. What was that? Oh, false paths. You know, like paths that don't really work. Like, be careful. Don't waste your time. 6 years, you know, poking himself and putting fires on himself. Somebody at the prison ran up and gave me this article about some guy in another country that I won't name who got through of a 7-year running program through the mountains of his country to prove that he's a worthy Buddhist monk. And if he ever stops for more than 24 hours, he's sworn to disembowel himself. And this guy is unbelievably brave and you know, glorious thing. And I'm like, this is perfect bullshit. You know, this is perfect thing that Lord Buddha said, don't get into that kind of stuff, you know. And that's an extreme example, but I mean, there's other paths where you do the opposite and you're just like oming all day. And you're not doing anything, you're not thinking about anything, and I think there are these two extremes, you know. And I think it's a message of check out the path you get into so you don't sit there for 6 years and then decide you made a boo-boo. You know, I think that's the second message for that one for me. What's the next one? Michael Moore. What is it?
Went to Bodh Gaya.
Oh, going to Bodh Gaya. No, well, what? Some scriptures say going to Bodh Gaya. Some scriptures say sitting down in front of the tree. Yeah.
Well, he's overcome. He's gone through everything. I just know this is it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it.
I mean, to me, I want to cry when I get to that point, you know. He sits down and he says, either I make it here or I die here. That's so cool, you know. Like, I'm afraid to talk about it because I'm afraid it might inspire me. I have all these bodies around Diamond Mountain. But he's like, I'm sitting down and I'm not getting up. Death or enlightenment, you know? And that's really cool to me, you know. That seems really cool to me. So yeah, it's the decision, you know. I'm going to do it, you know. Who's hiding? I think Benjamin's really getting low down there. What's next?
Destroying the army of demons. It just seems like the demons are endless. I heard a great teaching by John Bishop about how devious the demons are, and for all time just from harassing us, and how can we defeat them when there's only one of us and countless of them. And it's just about understanding that you have to become that powerful. You have to be greater than an army, which is a lot of it.
Yeah, that's all. And I'd say, yeah, multiple forms. They come in multiple forms. Could be nice, could be meant.
Could you see that as the mental afflictions is all the karma that you generated through
Oh,
all the
yeah.
years?
Good point. I forgot to say something, which is very important. The 4 demons, there's demons on 3 levels. Okay? On a very Hinayana level, Lord Buddha shoots the light out from this thing here and destroys all these particular guys. On a medium level, Lord Buddha defeats the 4 demons that I listed. Those are called the rough 4 demons, the gross 4 demons. And then there's the 4 subtle demons. And they are basically all tied to different kinds of self-existent grasping, seeing things as self-existent. There's a subtle 4 demons that I didn't talk about, but they all relate to subtle forms of taking things as self-existent, you know. So yeah, very much that. Very much a more subtle level. I'm glad you reminded me. Allison, did you do one? What's next?
We got more
Yeah.
for
Yeah, I don't think it's...
possible.
Yeah, that's the most important thing to me. It's possible, you know? Like, if he's already got enlightened, why didn't he just shoot down this world and start teaching? You see? He could have done that. If he's been enlightened since 30,000 lifetimes or whatever before. But he's like trying to make a point. You can do it, guys. Look, this is how you do it, you know? And like, you know, I think it's just a big cheerleader thing. You know, look, you can do it, you know? Yeah, it's possible. Because there's lots of people that say that deathlessness is not possible, right? I mean, that's very common. Buddhism is rarely taught in those terms, right? Very rarely will someone sell you Buddhism as more than something to be calm or friendly, you know? And that's the real point of it, right? Okay, Catherine, next one.
Wheel of Dharma,
Yeah.
the importance of extending the awareness that's cultivated through all of this spiritual path to others
Yeah, I think
to help them eliminate the same sufferings?
I like it. I would only add one more thing, and that Winston can surely tell us,
Well,
due to his specialty.
He mentioned the three wheels, so we need to learn different explanations that'll be appropriate for different audiences.
Yeah, yeah. That big deal, that big thing that they always make it plural. You see, in English they always translate as turning the wheel. It's not that. In Tibetan it's turning the wheels of the Dharma. So that it's very likely that you will have to morph in different forms to teach people. And maybe even things that aren't strictly accurate at that time. I mean, you hear His Holiness talk in Central Park even. It's quite different from Beacon Theater, right? And you can you taste it there, the gross difference between his presentation in Central Park and the one at the Beacon Theater, right? It's extremely, he's so good at that, you know. He'll just morph immediately to the audience, you see. Kimberly, last one. Then you get to have dinner.
Like the Buddha pretended to go into the
Yeah.
Personally, I think that the Buddhas that are historical and the Buddha that walks among us. Maybe things aren't what they seem.
I love it, yeah. That's what the homework master says for the last one. Things are not what, you know, it's like the final statement that things may not be what they seem. You know? Okay. All right. You're done. Sorry it went so long. But to me, you know, it's just the whole thing came up like this one beautiful package, that whole 12 deeds, you know. And I think you can really teach it to others now in a complete way, you know.